And yet I end up back here. It's quiet now. From where I stand on the opposite side of the street, only the forensics and the scene investigators are moving in and out of the place. There are a few onlookers, sure, but none of them dare come close, unlike the last time. Some reporters are still asking the one on duty questions, jotting down notes from time to time, taking curious glances around. But otherwise, everything's peaceful in the area, despite the hubbub this morning. If I squint, I can probably pretend things have gone back to normal after a day. However, until now, the memories are fresh. Even the smell of blood seems to linger in the air, holding on to it, clinging to it, like a bitter reminder of what we lost in a single night. Crivens, the smell is yet to wash out from my hands. I've tried. Burned through a whole bottle of soap at the inn, only for the scent to last no more than a few hours. Then there's the images. That single instant when I touched her shoulders, the lifeless look in her eyes when her head lobbed backwards and her arms fell lifelessly to her sides. However, more than that, more than I care to confess, is the guilt, and it feels more real than the scent or the memories. We fought that morning, outright shouted at each other.
Would it have changed anything if we didn't?
If I had treated her ideas, real or not, with less harshness, would anything have changed?
Would she still be here?
I guess I'll never know now. I let out another sigh. Another reprieve from what's weighing down on me. One of the many I've been allowing to slip out from my mouth lately. In a few days, they'll finally allow us back here, to return to our lives, and for those who are left behind to begin the process of mending. By then, will accepting be a little easier? I'd like to believe so. Suddenly exhausted, I begin my walk back to my temporary home, where I can pretend this all never happened before reality kicks in again. But short of crossing the street, a voice rings out, cutting through the thick silence, stopping me in my tracks.
What? Wait, Chief, no!
Frey, listen first.
You're in on this, aren't you?
Watch your tone, Frey. This isn't up for discussion.
Yeah, are they all actually there in person? Oh yeah. A closer look reveals 3 people standing near a police mobile. Police mobile, I should say. Mobile. That's a different thing. One of them is Ashton and LPD's chief inspector? The mobile blocks... Why do I keep saying mobile? Mobile. The mobile blocks my view of the third person, but judging from the voice alone, it's Inspector Abigail. We don't have a sprite for her. It appears to be some kind of regular police talk, but with the tone and how loud they're all speaking, it's close to brewing into a full-blown argument. Ashton, in particular, looks as if he wants to punch something. Or someone.
I was assigned here, Chief.
And might I remind you again, I can very well reassign you someplace else if you don't listen. Much less keep yourself in check.
I don't know why, but it almost looks like they're holding hands here.
I heard you the first time. I just don't see why there's a need for this. I'm doing my job, aren't I?
Course you don't see it. Should I give you a quick briefing? You snapped at a grand total of 5 people today. 5. Record-breaking, really, when it was at 0 before. That doesn't count the ones from the forensics company, by the way.
No one's asking, Abigail.
Have you taken a look at yourself since this morning? I think Officer Carl might be a little afraid of you now, in fact. First time you lashed out on him like that. Actually, that was the first time we ever heard you lash out at anyone, and I must admit that was quite a show while it lasted.
Oof.
I did not lash out at Officer Carl. Or anyone. Stop exaggerating things.
Oh, do you want to bet on that? Because I'm in serious need of cash right now.
Christ, Abigail, I already told you it was just...
Or is it because of the victim? I heard you were friends with her, but this is getting a bit out of hand for a friend, don't you think?
Ouch.
Is there something you're not telling us?
He falters into silence. A pained expression falls across his face as his hands clench into fists. It doesn't last, but in that short second I caught a glimpse of what he's been thinking, what's been going through his mind the entire time. Just like the night before, and that last glimpse of him with his back turned against me. But to see it up close, so openly displayed in front of other people, is an entirely different thing. He's never one to let his walls down like that. Now it's falling apart, piece by piece, without his meaning to.
That's none of your business!
Oh, no, it is my business, all right? I'm the one running this investigation, and you know how I do everything!
Everything?
This one most certainly does not have a place for young detectives with a bloody temper!
Wow, I'm called for with the young.
You better stand down, hotshot, or I'm kicking you out with or without Chief here! My crime scene, my rules.
I don't have a fucking bloody temper! Will you give it a rest already?
Enough! Frey, get out of here. Take a chill pill. I don't need someone reckless running around this crime scene right now.
Chief, you can't be serious.
I am, I can, and I just did.
I just did serious.
Go on, out of this place, out of my sight.
I'm in the middle of...
Pass it to Abigail. All of it. She'll handle this for now until... I don't know. Till your head's back in its proper place.
No, you can't just...
Frey, this is an order. Take a bloody chill pill. Or go get some coffee, ice cream, whatever it is you like to eat. I don't care, as long as you clear your head. Come back when you've stopped looking like you want to dismember the person next to you. Is that clear?
Chief, please, not this case. I
asked. Did I make myself clear, Detective Inspector?
Another pause. This one far heavier than the previous, and bears the weight of his complete resignation on the matter. He doesn't look them in the eye when he answers, nor does his tone carry any of his frustrations. But his wall is back.
Loud and clear.
I did not hear you.
Oh, come on, you do not need to poke the bear.
Loud and clear, sir.
Good kid. Off you go. I don't want to see your pretty mug here in the next few hours. You're dismissed.
Good grief.
Yes, sir.
Except this time it has been rebuilt in the wrong place, at the wrong time, for an entirely different reason. Knowing him, when it's like this, it will not hold long.
Don't worry about missing out on anything. I'll keep you updated once you return, all right?
I mean, he shouldn't be working this case. If it was a normal case.
Take a break for now. You haven't slept since last night.
Thanks.
Alright. Let's see where we are in the stream of time. Okay, so he got punched that morning. And then... Oh, look! We get to see Abigail. She has a drawing, at least. After a restless night, a brief talk with her parents about the heartwarming party invitation, and a failed attempt at going back to her normal routine, Rebecca returned to Salem Well. There she overheard a conversation between Ashton, Inspector Abigail, and the Chief Inspector. Alright, when does Zach's demise happen? It's a while. 31st. So it happens on the day they would normally have gone to the mansion. Okay. So it's a while. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 days away from today. They leave him after with a pat to the back and nothing else. But anger and frustration together are cold, ugly things to carry, much less to swallow. For someone like Ashton, coping with it is a whole different uphill climb. His is not the kind that fades away with time, nor easily forgotten. It's the sort that he keeps close, allows to fester and drive him. But when that doesn't work, when all of what keeps his mind occupied is taken from him, he's nothing but lost. That anger, too, loses its direction. So he fumes, stomps off to some place where he can be alone, where he can find something to vent it out on, where people won't see more of him beyond what he chooses to show. If that doesn't work either, he'll go back to the first step and do everything again. All until everything becomes a vicious cycle and it eats him whole, changes him entirely as a person. He hates it when people meddle. He hates it more when people see him like this. But this isn't something he has to carry alone. This, too, is ours to bear. I won't let him suffer this alone. With that in mind, I follow after him. Minutes later, I finally track Ashton down at a nearby park. He can't sit still, pacing back and forth, running a hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration every other pass he makes. At some point, he decides to take it out on a poor park bench, only for his foot to regret it all afterwards. He returns to pacing then, has been at it for the last 5 minutes, and at this point he might end up digging a trench on the ground if he doesn't let up. Yeah, when exactly are you planning to put this not let him suffer alone plan into action? You hoping he'll just be exhausted eventually?
Someone should stop him.
Will it be me? When I followed him here, I've intended to put an end to this. Had a whole speech prepared for him. But now that I'm standing in close proximity to his temper, to him, I can't bring myself to even approach. My feet simply won't move the instant I saw him. Before long, my own resolve starts to wane, gradually fading away underneath the uncertainties. What will he think? Will he appreciate this? He hates it when people interfere with his affairs, and here I am, barging in on his business as if it's something I'm entitled to share. When did I start thinking this way? When did I start thinking this is okay?
Why did I think this would be a good idea?
She's having some of the thoughts from when I liked her the most. I'm stepping back before I know it. Although I don't make it far. In my rush, I accidentally step on a stray wrapper that somehow missed the trash. It crunches under my foot, and in the stillness of the park at this time, it's loud enough to disturb. Ashton halts, looks up, his vexed expression making way for bewilderment.
Becca? You aren't supposed to be here.
It's a public park, Ash. It isn't meant to be an accusation or to be taken like one. It's a simple statement, yet it sounds far from it all the same. A question underneath. Facing it now, I hesitate. I don't think we should bring up, you know, the whole conversation we overheard. That was probably a private conversation. If he wants to share, grand. But this is true. She cannot sleep. She's been having the most horrific nightmares, so it's not a falsehood to say this. Nice. Not that it matters when we're all gonna just die in the end, but hey. For all my bravado, for all the things I keep telling myself, I don't want to answer the unspoken question in it, nor face his anger and sorrow or what I will see beyond it. We may be in the same boat, but we have our own ways of dealing with this, of living through this until we get that sense of normalcy back. But I also know I can't leave him with these ghosts. So I talk. A weak attempt to fill the awkward silence, but so long as it takes him, us, away from falling into that chasm, this'll do.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you.
Don't you usually avoid these parts at night?
I just couldn't sleep tonight, so I decided to take a walk. I didn't think I'd find you here. Considering what happened last night, I thought you'd be busy.
Not a complete lie. But when all he gives me for a response is a stare, almost close to a blank look, I think for a second he found out. Eventually, he simply nods and exhales.
Bad dream?
Yeah, kind of.
I thought as much.
I frown at him, confused at his blasé reply. Until I remember, he's already seen more dead bodies in his life compared to what my eyes have seen. It comes in his line of work. Bloody hell, he has a forensic science degree under his belt. At some point, he must have likely worked on a cadaver before he even got out of the university. He's also been assigned to cases like this before, witnessed close families, relatives, friends go through this. None of it is surprising to him. But what if it is of a friend's, of someone he knows and has been close to for years? Won't it change anything?
Does it ever get easy?
Depends on who you're asking.
I mean, I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time you've seen something like that. Like...
I trail off, unable to continue, careful of this talk going into territory that will create bigger wounds. Ashton, on the other hand, takes a long minute to answer, like he's weighing his next words, choosing it deliberately. Then he stuffs his hand inside his pockets and looks away at some far-off point beside him, looking at it intently as though he's seen something there that I couldn't. His answer comes in the form of a shrug, and a voice almost too quiet, too somber.
You get used to it. Eventually.
I suppose. There isn't any other way around this, huh?
No, there isn't. Unfortunately. But you'll stop caring after the second or third time.
Ouch.
The next thing you know, all of them just looks the same as the others in your eyes. All unfortunate victims.
Perhaps it is his tone, or his manner of avoiding my eyes when he says that. But before I can think on it, choose my words in the same careful way he did earlier, I let my emotions get ahead of me.
Hold on. Wait. Is that what this is, then? What she is now? To you? Just a victim? Just some dead body?
Good job, Becca, who always touts herself as the old, responsible adult. He answers with more silence, and my temper, despite myself, flares.
The victim has a name, Ash, and that victim is your friend. Why is it so difficult to say her name now when you've done it plenty of times before?
You're not saying it either.
Does it matter now? She's gone. Even Zach made a bigger issue out of that. There are other things you two should really be...
It does matter. To you, it does. For a long time. You've always...
You've always seen her in a different light. Far different from the way he'd look at other people. Zachary. Or me. Always with the tiny gleam in his eyes, the darting glances, and the kind smiles. Little things, little gestures. To others it may seem nothing, but to him it means the whole world, because it's the only way he can say everything without fumbling or losing his nerves. Right from the very start. And I don't need to ask the why. I've always had an inkling. The thought has always been there, hiding, tucked, and neatly sealed away at the back of my mind in the same manner he keeps his own secrets close to himself. Which is why, when he swallows hard, allows his arms to fall limp to his sides, and shifts his gaze away, there's no jolt, no surprise in me. Just a slow, painful, burning realization of a truth long held. A feeling's never meant to be for me. And yet, in the end...
Like I said, it doesn't matter. You guys need to understand that whatever I say or do right now, this case isn't going to solve itself.
In the end, it's him who cowers from it. I mean, does acknowledging the feelings matter now? He can't do anything with them.
You keep on saying case this, case that. But this isn't just about the bloody investigation anymore, is it?
Well, you seem to have a better idea what it is.
Oh.
Why don't you lay it all out to me, so I'll understand? Maybe I'm missing something. Because honestly, I don't know what else this could be, other than what we've been telling the press. A fucking homicide case. The victim was murdered, and if you bring up that stupid letter again...
Will you quit saying that?
Well, what do you want me to say then?
Stop lying to yourself!
I'm lying? Becca, look here,
No! Enough! Enough with your cool act! I'm having none of it! You listen, and you listen good!
I'm gonna hit you with this book I have.
Stop this! Stop lying! Stop telling yourself everything and this is normal for you! Because it's not! It never was! It never will be!
Rebecca, I think you need to calm down.
Never tell a screaming woman to calm down.
Stop pretending Isabella no longer equates into all of this just because she's gone! Because that is a big, fat lie coming from you! She matters because it's her! She always did! No one else! Or you. She always did.
That was some really good voice acting. Just gotta say. Becca's VA, you killed it with those lines. The very meaning behind it freezes him into place, and any excuses or diversions dies on his tongue. The gasp. There's more to it, however. Beyond his unmoving stance and his sudden unfocused stare, there's understanding and fear. He's aware I'm right, and every word I'm about to articulate are the very same ones he's been avoiding. But these need to be said, even if it means having him face the unpleasant.
Regardless of what you're telling me or Zachary, I know that out of all of us, you're the one taking this the hardest.
I allow my voice to fade into the night, into the chilly air blowing in the distance between us, cold, sharp, unforgiving, much like the truths we have to face. Ashton is silent for quite some time, but the earlier shock in his face has given way to something flaccid, subdued. And when that silence becomes too unbearable for him as well, he forces himself to move, to pace. Treading the ground once again, one perturbed footstep after another, and running a furious hand to his hair before dropping it to his side. Later, when that too turns inadequate, he gives the park bench another good kick. This time, if it brings any pain to him, he simply takes it all in, as if that alone will dull the other pain.
Fuck.
Aw, that blush. Regardless, he continues, but this time there's something in his voice. A bitter note, dropping to nothing more than whispers he mutters to himself. A sound he meant only for his ears to hear, but reverberates clearly in the park's stillness.
Ash, maybe you should...
Damn it. Damn it. God damn it. I was hoping. Damn it. I was hoping for her to...
His throat closes up. His words choke off, getting lost in his sorrow. Unable to continue, he passes a hand over his eyes instead, letting out a slow, ragged breath that brings him neither a sense of comfort nor relief. It's simply another reminder of what he failed to do.
I couldn't even... Damn it, all these years, I keep telling myself that I love... And yet I couldn't even...
And this is when he breaks. Aw. A crying Ash, CG. Great. Piece by piece, brick by brick, the walls he has struggled to put up all came tumbling down, all of his defenses caving in, weakening, as it bears the brunt of his grief. His words are halting when the first tears begin to fall, his shoulders shaking, hands clenched tightly, his fists holding on to something quickly slipping away from him. Or maybe it already did. Maybe this comes from all those missed opportunities. Her departure took it all with her, and what he's clinging to right now are merely the fragments. Remnants of all the what-ifs and should-haves.
I knew this was going to be a difficult case. The moment I saw it, I knew.
No, a new sprite for Ash.
There was barely any evidence. Not even a sign of someone else breaking in. And she's just there. I've been at this since last night, and I couldn't find anything that would help.
The letter.
I hate this. I hate feeling this stupid, this helpless. I can't even begin to imagine what she felt before she... And right after I made that promise, she could count on me. Damn it. If only I'd... Figures, huh? Turns out I'll mess this up, too. Huh?
This is not the same. None of these were your fault, man. Not your parents' divorce, not Isabella's death, not Zachary's death, not Becca's death, not your own death, not Hannah's death, not Mary. It's all my fault. If you want to blame someone, you can blame me. In truth, I do not know how to answer that or if he's expecting any from me. It's one of those questions where there's really no exact answer to. Same with those little regrets now surfacing, lingering. Any other day, I tell him exactly how I see it, without wavering. That no matter how, there's no way we could have prepared for this, no way we could have known things would lead to this. Those are opinions better left for another day. When we're hurting less, when we aren't reeling from what has been haphazardly thrown at us. After all, platitudes tend to cease their usefulness at some point. And in its place, I've nothing else to offer but a shoulder to cry on. Aww. Good job, girl. We're an awkward fit like this, with his trembling shoulders and short, heaving breaths. Though he allows it, he doesn't return the gesture, nor do I expect him to do so. Unlike Isabella, who has always been open and free with her fondness for people, personal space has always been a matter of importance for the two of us. Ashton most of all. But for the time being, this'll do.
Bampot, you're an idiot.
Bampot.
Of course I know how you're feeling about this. Who do you think I am? We grew up together, didn't we? I know you better than anyone. Stop forgetting stuff like that. Drill it into your head if you must.
We'll take what little comfort we can gain from this, beyond what reassurances mere words can offer. And in this short moment we share, this is enough. We exchange no words after. Simply standing there for a good half of the hour, letting the late-night din of the city, the rustling of leaves, and the hum of the crickets nearby fill the air around us. We remain like this until his sobs fully subside, and what's left of it are nothing more than soft whimpers. When at last he pulls away from me, it's as if the heavy atmosphere has finally lifted around us, and what he carries with him no longer burdens him the way it did minutes ago. Not completely, though. Even with this, it'll take longer for everything to fade, and neither will it be easily forgotten, especially when it has taken root so deeply in our lives. But he's calm now. It's better this way. Because only in the aftermath is when he'll learn to deal, to cope.
Is it going to be okay now?
No. It's a start. I can't always walk him through this. He knows that too. So when he answers, he asks nothing more of me, and only answers in the best manner he can, without reverting back to anger or locking himself away.
Yeah, a little, I guess. I don't know. This is... It'll take some time.
Yeah.
There's still the investigation and the evidence, if we can even find any. Plus, the lab still has to test everything.
Ash, I'm not asking about the case. Although that's important, trust me, I want to know who did this as much as you do. At least then, I'll have a proper reason to hit someone. But I'm asking about you. Are you going to be okay?
Another mirthless expression flickers shortly across his features before he looks away, his eyes focusing on some distant area of the park. There's a hint of yearning in them, probably searching for that one person who could never be here from now on. It's gone, and he's already talking in the next second before I can prompt him.
I'll be fine. A bit of adjustment here and there, maybe. I'll be okay. I've survived worse things.
I doubt he believes those, but I don't question him further on it, and neither does he let me.
But thanks for asking. And for this. Sorry you had to see me like that.
What are friends for?
What? Don't be so embarrassed about it now. This isn't the first time, remember? Back in secondary? If I recall, someone had to snap you out of that sulk, too.
I really wouldn't call this a sulk, but...
Yeah. No. Don't remind me. And don't sound so proud of it.
Why not? I mean, you've done more embarrassing things in front of other people, and I always have to...
That's the point. It's embarrassing.
Oh, come on. Now you're feeling ashamed about it? For the record, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But let's just leave it there, Becca. And if you can, if possible, can you not... Don't...
Can you not be you?
Just... Don't mention this to Zach. For now. I'll never hear the end of it.
If I did, he would take it to his grave. There are a lot of things he intentionally leaves out in that, so many things he refuses to tell. And it's all being hidden under that false front. His hesitance alone, the shift in his tone from that banter, speaks volumes. Zachary has never been one to easily judge people. It's part of the reason why Ashton hangs out with him, despite their rather disastrous first meeting. The big guy learning about this little episode won't make any difference, nor even change things around them. It's just one of the many things they learn to accept, or, in some cases, tolerate about each other. Of course, it doesn't mean things like the punching incident this morning never occurs. That doesn't mean it can't easily be fixed, though. Sometimes all they need is a little push. Kids. Becca, please.
Zachary will understand.
Yeah, I know. I know that.
I know.
But I'd rather talk to him in person first. About other things.
You got 5 days.
And when we're in better terms, maybe we can laugh about this. But right now...
I won't mention anything. Don't worry. Though, like I said, Zachary will understand. You are just doing your job and that kind of news isn't easy to swallow. Anyone would have reacted that way, even if it's someone like Zach. In fact, if I didn't know the big guy, he's probably feeling guilty about it like you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, it'll be okay.
He merely smiles in reply, strained and a bit awkward, but I take it for everything it stands for right now. Today and in the next, a little drop of optimism could do us some good. Even if things appear a wee bit bleaker than it should be, or were people rarely inclined to hope blindly. That kind of predisposition has always been Isabella's or Zach's department, never from us, who sticks to facts and what we see in front of us. But this time, taking a page from their book isn't so bad. What is there left to lose? This is so sad, man. A fuming Ashton marched off to the park after his temporary dismissal from Isabella's case. Rebecca follows after him, and the two ended up in a spat over Ashton's cold and distant attitude. When all was said and done, Ashton reached his breaking point. We don't stay long. The evening might be pleasant, and the park offers a peaceful enough place to muse on things, but we have work to do. Both of us. And though Ashton doesn't openly express it, I know he still wishes to be alone after this and mourn in his own way. The heaviest of his burden might have already been lifted, but there are parts he continues to hold close. Bits and pieces more difficult to let go of. Those are the ones I can never reach. And in spite of the fact that the mere thought of it sends my heart clenching, I can't bring myself to begrudge him over it. In this way, we are the same. Some wounds simply take longer to heal. Which is why I don't stop him, and quietly we part ways. He goes straight off to Salem Well again, only leaving me a small promise to get to the bottom of this, while I head back to the city proper, where an unfamiliar room and more awful dreams probably wait for me. And perhaps it's exactly the fear of being left with these thoughts on my own that leads me back to the cafe instead.
Delaying the inevitable, they say.
Less time to think about these as long as I'm awake, moving, and in the company of other people. This isn't when we punch Luke in the nads, is it? At this hour, the cafe is usually filled to the brim with people. That's the reason Isabella and I rarely ever go here during the evenings. Just out of curiosity.
Irish stew. Just for one person.
It totally is that evening. He quickly raises an eyebrow at that, while I swiftly avert my eyes down to my hands, although I don't miss the consoling look he gives me. I rarely visit here alone if I can help it. Often it's always with Isabella. She can be a bad influence sometimes. But that's precisely why this guy has known us long enough that if I ever drop by here alone, he already has a number of ideas why. Doubtless he's already heard what happened in the news. No need to bring it up in something as casual as ordering food. There's a proper time and place for grief and empty sympathies. He gives me a small smile before leaving to prepare my order, while I fish for my wallet when...
Look, you little ankle biter. If I buy you the biggest parfait they have, will you please behave?
Alright, suspicious looking man. For Hana!
Mister, you have until the count of 5 to let me go and step out of my personal space.
Go. Yaha! What do I want to do here? Well, there's no helping him. And there's not actually no... Well, I don't know if I can help you. You also might be dead. I don't know if the end scene will change at all with what I'm doing here. In the off chance you live through this, here's a good life lesson for you. That's all I can do for you, small one. Alright, so... Thwack. What was the last thing? Oh, talking about the stars. Wanted to go and watch it with Zach and Ash. We never got around it before. Now we've all lost the chance. Even so, I find myself enjoying this, despite being told it's only half the experience. Little things, you know. Stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times, you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone. For example, that guy. The worst of the worst. As nice? The brief lull the past 2 days has offered is nice while it lasted. Or as nice as it can get under the shadow of Isabella's recent passing hovering over our heads. There have been no updates from Ashton either, despite his promise. When he breaks his silence, it's only to deliver a short message from LPD allowing Salem Well's tenants to return to their flats tonight. Somehow, with that, it feels like the whole of Luxburn, the whole world even, has at last chosen to move on its own again. Onwards to different, more important things that really matter to general public. Yet something still lingers.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things start to settle and a steady rhythm finally worms its way back to my routine, Thursday morning brings further disturbance to the now calm waters. With little ceremony, though still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen this coming. You know, it's a small city. How many blonde guys could there possibly be? I guess we'll hang out with you. Maybe you'll be our murderer as well. I don't know. I just don't know. Anything's possible. We've had some unique deaths so far, to say the least. The 27th. When did Hana die? Okay, it was after this. It was after the party. Okay, so it's a while still. One moment, I'm busy simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere the next, and someone's suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend ends up murdered, and I'm looking down at her lifeless body. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. How am I supposed to be reading? Marianne's dead? What was that? Let's see. Not that Isabella's ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'll do to him, except she's no longer there if that scenario ever comes to pass. Hey, Becca, I'll be around Salem Well this evening. Need to meet someone in the area. I might have to drop by yours and Isabella's place after. See ya! Yeah, about that, though. I face a dilemma. I got a tough choice. Do I... I mean, I don't know. I guess... Should I hang out with Ash? I don't know what the... You know what? I'm gonna flip a coin. Why not? Tails for Luke, because he's a butt, and heads for Ashton. Hiya! Ugh, tails. Coin has betrayed me. Fine. Woo. Maybe he can tell us off again. Alright, let's see. I've always been sure of it, and that one day he'll see it for what it is. even if his heart is still set on someone else. My heart wavers. I can't remember if I've done the other option for here, actually. What did I pick the first time when I was doing your route? I think I did. I don't need to answer that. Let's do this. Yeah. Okay. I haven't done this yet. Well, it worked out, coin. Thanks. How dare he, though? How dare he just waltz in and act like he can do as he pleases, say what he wants, or trample over other people's feelings? He doesn't know anything about me or Ashton. We've only met a few days ago, and yet he acts like we've been acquainted for years. He hasn't even met Ash. How can he say those things about him? The longer I hear his tirade, the more it sounds like he's pulling it out of his arse, out of some misguided thinking he's better than anyone in this whole bloody city. That's why he had the tails. What a pompous bawheed. Normally, I'll ignore people like him. He doesn't deserve a single second of my day. But a small voice at the back of my head protests at the idea of simply leaving things here. I refuse to let this go until I've said my piece and defended myself. Those aren't merely months of harboring feelings for someone he's scoffing at. They're made of years. All of it built upon memories we've had from childhood.
What right do you have to tell me that?
None whatsoever, Daisy. But did you assume I haven't seen that before? Those longing looks? The face of someone who wants something but has yet to get it? Give me a little credit here, woman. I'm not daft, nor am I blind to your silly little feelings. It's plastered all over your face anyway. I didn't even need to try.
A pause comes after, while I wait for him to add to that. He doesn't. But briefly, a wistful expression spreads across his face. Surprisingly gentle, as if remembering an old memory from once upon a time, or something he has constantly seen in the mirror. It's gone in the next second. Then he turns his attention on a box beside him. For the next few minutes, he contents himself with making a mess out of the paper napkins inside, folding them into clean shapes without any clear intent, before crumpling them in his hand when he loses interest and dumping them in a small pile in front of him. I allow it to go on for a little while before I interrupt him. I am not yet done.
And somehow that's reason enough for you.
Not at all. In fact, you didn't even need to stay here and listen to me ramble about it. Go on, walk away, the door's wide open. If you wish to be done with this mindless topic. You certainly won't hear me complaining if we just drop this now. I, for one, am very eager to be done with this stupid nonsense about your man and your...
You don't know me.
He pauses in the middle of folding another paper napkin into an airplane and glances up at me. I thought I was the only one who did stuff like that.
I'm quite sure we've already established that, Daisy. But go ahead.
And you know not a single thing about him.
That too is true. Are you going anywhere with this?
We've always been together since we were children. We've been friends for a long time. We know each other better than anyone. Compared to those 7 measly years you're so proud of, we've been with each other for almost a lifetime.
Not quite. Add a few more years, maybe? It does sound romantic when you put it that way, doesn't it? Not many people get to have someone with them that long. That's what you have going for you, isn't it? Cute years playing hide and seek, going to school together, and sharing lunchboxes? Did he also protect you from bullies? I bet my socks he did.
I bet my socks.
Lucky, I don't even remember anyone from my old neighborhood.
I feel like that's not true.
Well, except for that one Nancy who spat his drink in my face years ago. You better pray I don't find him.
Oh my goodness.
So, you're just going to call it that? Despite what I told you, you're just going to call it an obsession?
Isn't it?
I mean, isn't it?
What? Of course it isn't. Didn't I already tell you?
Did it ever cross your mind how your man would feel about all this?
You think I've never thought of that? Listen here, you.
Or were you expecting he'll simply feel the same all because of some shared history you have? Because fun fact, Daisy, feelings change and people most definitely also change with time. Whoever that person was 10 or 20 years ago, whatever idea you have of them floating inside your head, they won't be the same now.
Preach.
What are you trying to get at?
Suppose that man of yours wants something else for himself. What if he never returns your feelings? The way you so desperately want him to? What will you do?
That's not going to...
Are you going to beg? Tell him to choose you instead? Or are you going to lash out at the poor woman or man who happened to catch your man's attention?
Got her. My voice falters. His eyes focus on me, the pieces of paper he's been folding earlier now left forgotten in the space between us while he waits for my response. However, I can't give him one. He's already aware of that, and it shows in his face when his lips form a lopsided smirk. How can I when I've had my suspicions all along? Worse, it turns out, all this time, they're true.
Oh, I hit a nerve, didn't I?
That's none of your business.
It's true, though. The poor bloke doesn't have any obligation to return your precious feelings, nor can you force him to. That wouldn't be right.
If you're just going to mock me, we might as well sew your bloody mouth shut this instant.
Now, no need to get violent. But come on, 20 years? Gordon, Bennett, if nothing's happening past that mark, you might as well consider your options, woman. Even I wouldn't last that long.
Stop it.
One of these days, I'd like to meet the guy and share a few drinks with him, just to give the poor bloke a break from you. And probably see how dense he really is.
Ouch.
I mean, a lovely woman like you chasing after him, and he doesn't give a shite? That's new. It'll be on me, don't worry.
I said stop it! I don't want to hear a word of it anymore!
The chair scrapes the floor as I abruptly push away from our table to stand. Looming over him with the most piercing glower I can summon, anger undeterred by my own ragged breathing and clenched fists. Looking down at him in the same manner he did to me throughout this chat. The only way I can keep my pride intact in front of him and the other people watching this sudden scene unfold. I hate this man. I hate the fact that he can unsettle me like this, turning everything around what I've believed in with his mere words alone. What's more awful? It's how easily those can replace the very ideas I hold dear to me. Not because I am easily swayed, but because in each of them I'm aware there's a sliver of truth. Minutes pass in quiet tension. Some of the diners have already lost interest in the commotion and returned to their meals. A waiter serves our food soon enough, and Kylie makes her way back to our table, blissfully unaware. But before I can take a seat, Luke mutters something. The words spoken in the same biting tone he has assumed since earlier. Despite my opinion of the man, I stop to look at him. His eyes are on his food as he speaks, busying himself with cutting a portion of meat on his plate. But what comes out of him only rings true against my ears, above the din of the coffee house.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's affection? I sincerely hope not. Kylie spoke highly of you.
He spears a piece of his food, pops it into his mouth, and that's it. With that, however, he leaves another challenge in the air. Another question. One whole day with this man and I still can't figure what his deal is. This time I don't rise up to it. Doing so means facing a different set of truths I'm not yet ready to face. Bitter truths. Those are for me to ponder on later, not in front of these people or him. His loathsome face and his sneer are the last things I'd ever want to see if that introspection ever happens. But for all this, I can't bring myself to think of him as someone wholly despicable. The rest of our meal slips by in silence afterwards. Aside from Kylie's occasional chatter, the whole dinner goes by without another word exchanged between the two of us. Somehow we manage to make it through the whole thing without triggering another tension-riddled conversation. A good thing, perhaps. One, because Kylie's sitting in front of us, and two, I probably won't be able to hold a proper conversation with my mind heavy with thoughts. We depart from the coffee house just as the evening crowd starts to thin out. Well, I don't have anything to read. I'm shocked. Alright, well... Dropped by earlier. LPD got a call from the embassy and Isabella's aunt wanted, scratched, and requested if we could help pack a few of her belongings tomorrow. It's for shipment back to her home. I'll try to get Z-Man to help. Anyway, how are you doing? Call me when you get this. See ya. Ash. Ashton's neat script lines its surface. The message he left, short and straight to the point, but not without the underlying hint of friendship. He mentions nothing about the case, except for a small request from Isabella's aunt. If tomorrow we could help pack a few of her personal belongings for shipment back to her home. A gut punch of anything. Suddenly it's all moving too fast. We haven't even come to terms with it. Even Ash abruptly ends the formal tone of his note by checking on me instead of elaborating. Well, they still had a good time. Let's see. Nothing expanded on there. Any other day, the former part of his message will likely prod at the piercing envy I've been holding, while the latter will probably send my heart aflutter. Little things from him that I want to mean something more. Yet this time only guilt fills me, and my eyes briefly shifts towards Isabella's empty unit. Luke's words repeat inside my head as I do so.
Is that all you are? Just some lovesick woman craving for another's affection? I sincerely hope not. Kylie spoke highly of you.
Have I always been like this?
This selfish? In truth, I've intended to call Ash after that dinner if I didn't catch him here. Invite him to that party like I've planned. There's time, and he's still probably awake at around this hour. But my hands won't move. And perhaps it is for the better. Until I've had the time to think this through, it'll be best if I distance myself from those I've been clinging tightly to. Find a different perspective, and see things for what they are. With a soft sigh, I reach for the note and crumple it under my hand. The knob twists open with much ease when I enter this time. Maybe after some introspection, it'll be easier. For tomorrow, I have that woman and the mansion to worry about. Alright. Still new stuff. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush. A strange sort of stillness, unlike the ones greeting me every morn. Alright, Bella and Ashton are usually arguing at this point. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. It hangs in the hallway, it lingers in Isabella's room, palpable the moment I ease open the door and walk in. They cleaned and didn't take any of these cup noodles with them. Or turn the TV off. So rude. The scent of disinfectant greets me upon crossing its threshold. The windows have been left wide open, but it doesn't do much to keep the sterile smell out. The walls and the floors have also been scrubbed clean of the blood after the police were done with it. Yet even with all the efforts they've taken, the stench of death endures. But more than that is the sight of what it has left behind. Aww. It's even a picture of her and Bella in here. And Batcat and the Yang Yang sheep. Posters hanging on the wall, framed photos she keeps on her bedside. The stuffed toys she bought on a whim before, the mess of cushions on one area of the room that she promised to clean. She'd never be able to do that now. Even without her here, the room is still so undoubtedly hers. Ashton and Zachary are already here, each of them having found a corner of the room to start their work. Scattered around them are a couple of boxes. 6? 7? Most are still empty, merely waiting to be filled. It's a wonder if it'll be enough to fit all 5 years' worth of memories there. Knowing Isabella, she won't be willing to leave any of these behind. There's no lively chatter, no friendly banter here to greet me. Only a thick silence hanging between the three of us. And despite my resolve, I still end up hanging around the door, unsure. From the looks of it, the two of them alone can already handle this, but still, I want to help. Even if doing this has a ring of finality in it. I'll do this again. We'll do coin time again to decide. Ash, because he's more of a butt than Zachary, will get tails. And Zach will be heads. Hiya! Frickin' tails? Coins broken? All the tails today! Nice. Ashton does not look up from his work when I approach. He is, however, considerate enough to make room for me in what little space he's made for himself amidst the room's mess. In the little time he's been here, he has made much progress cleaning up the corner of the room he picked. 2 boxes have already been filled, taped, and set aside. Now he's already working through the photos taped on Isabella's fridge, carefully putting them all in a neat stack beside him. With nothing else to say, not even a clipped greeting, we both simply lapse into silence. Working diligently through the clutter of papers and books around us, sorting everything into the boxes. This pile will immediately be sent to her family. It's important. A collection of postcards goes in this other box, for shipment at a later date. Her younger siblings will love it. Only a few soft grunts and hums are exchanged between us, until the minutes blur and we found a rhythm. One that's only broken when Ashton chuckles. An odd thing to hear in the heavy silence of the room, and it prompts me to look up from my own work, puzzled. He's staring at one of the remaining photos still fixed to the fridge's door. Moments later, after a bit of his amusement has died down, he reaches for it. Oh, she loved you, Ashton. It's an old photo of the 4 of us. Taken a few years ago. About 2 or 3 years, probably? I can't remember now. Isabella has always been the one to remember these sort of things. Although at the moment, the picture isn't the most flattering thing to look at after she drew over Ashton's face. None of it seems to bother him, though. In fact, with the manner he's staring at it, it's as if he's holding the most precious thing in his hands right now. A tender smile is on his lips, and for the first time in days, his eyes are bright with something close to fondness.
Really, scaredy cat? A mustache? I expect more from you than that.
She was such a child sometimes.
Worse. She's clumsy, a scatterbrain, and a crybaby. In the 5 years we've known her, she got us into all kinds of trouble. More than I can count. Honestly, she barged into our lives with all the subtlety of a bulldozer. The way she came in leaves a terrible impression when you think about it. Who does that?
It sounds like a complaint on all fronts. There's not even a hint of humor in it. Wherever I look at it, I'm inclined to think he really means all of it. But this is Ashton. Sometimes, despite what he says, his words carry a completely different meaning beyond what he chooses to convey. It's all a matter of looking beyond it, past his unnecessary criticisms and blunt declarations. I can hear a but, because you were the butt of my coin flip.
I can hear a but in there.
Mm-hmm. At my words, he stiffens, like a child who's been caught in the middle of his lie. But the unspoken question in it has struck true. Little by little, his posture eases. A gentle expression spreads over his features as his thumb moves over her face in the picture. All a memory now. Though even before he answers, even without his eyes trained on me, I already know.
But it's people like her that you don't forget.
It's the little things they say. The smallest sighs, the quiet proclamations, and the hushed gestures that roar louder than any. It's in the way he looks at her, smiles at her, and speaks of her. In the manner the sharp edges of his features softens at the mere thought of her. Grief underlies all of it, the yearning, but in that one fleeting second, this is the one truth he will hold against the world. He loves all of her. Despite the hollow ache in my heart, only a hum of agreement makes its way to my throat. An acceptance. This will always be a part of him. She will always be a part of him, in the same way her presence has wormed its way into Zachary's life and mine. If he never wishes to part with us, I won't blame him. That sentiment goes for all of us.
Do you think she'd be okay with it if I keep this one?
Out of everything, you want a photo where she doodled on your face?
What's wrong with it? I think it looks very tasteful. 11 out of 10. I'd even put it on Shirley's dashboard.
Dang.
Belle would say your taste sucks.
She'd say more than that. She'd probably call me an asshole while she's at it.
You know she didn't mean that.
For a long moment he is quiet, as if he's weighing his next words. Outside, a soft breeze rustles the few trees within the vicinity, and the gentle tweets of the birds have begun to blend in with the distant noises of the city. The world is waking. Along with it, Ashton releases a sigh, softly, under his breath, but weighted with all that he's hanging on to.
No, she never did.
Then, gently, he sets the photo on a nearby table, separate from the stack on his left, right beside a small, lucky charm. A light draft blows from the open windows, sending some of the papers around us aflutter. But the lone photograph on the table, that one remains, another memory to keep. However, today isn't the time for those. No further words are exchanged after that, and perhaps it is for the better. Oh, the feels, man. This picture. While packing Isabella's things for return to her family, Ashton found an old group picture with his face vandalized. Despite calling Isabella a scatterbrain and a crybaby, he remarked that people like her were the ones you do not easily forget. We managed to pack most of Isabella's belongings by the time all of us have to leave for work, but at the threshold we all hesitate. A heavy air hangs around us, a consequence of knowing that this might be the last time we will be doing something for her. Of course, none of us mentions it, even if the meaning's all too clear in our heads. This is a goodbye, if anything. The world outside waits, and we can't stay here. So, with a last glance, we leave all of it behind. At least, tonight I'll have something to look forward to. Something to help take my mind off things. And if any of my hunches are correct, where this all started will provide the answers I'm looking for.